welcome to another one of our monthly Music New South Wales seminars on various topics. This one happens to be on booking small and medium-sized gigs in Sydney, or really anywhere in Australia. And we've assembled a panel of great bookers and venue managers and different people to talk about their experience with you, which they'll do directly at the end of a little facilitated bit. Before we get started, I'd like to thank my presenting partners, APRA, Arts Law, and the Australian Council for the Arts, and Sydney TAFE Music, who are quite clearly there. Before we get started, we have a couple of people to talk about stuff. Scarlett is going to chat about some things right now that you can get through Music New South Wales, those being additional help for musicians. Scarlett.
Hey guys, I'll be super brief. Thanks for coming. Just want to let you know a few really exciting things that we have on offer at the moment at Music New South Wales. A few days ago we announced a really exciting deal between the Australian Music Industry Network, which we're a part of, and an organisation called Travel Beyond, whereby we're offering discount flights on both domestic and international flights for musicians when they're touring and people in the music industry when they're touring. So international as well, between 7 and 20% discounts on Virgin flights. There's also discounts on Qantas flights and Jetstar and more. Also discounts on accommodation, car hire. It's a huge and big game changer for the music industry if you're a touring artist. There's some information about it on your seats and along the side table there. Head to MusicNSW.com if you want to find out how to become a member of our organisation and take advantage of this deal. It is free to sign up. The other thing is just on your seats, there's some resources here from Arts Law. There's a flyer from the Support Act Association. They help artists who are in financial hardship. So if that covers you, I recommend checking them out. And now I'll just hand it over to Jenny from Arts Law, who's just going to give a little brief introduction as to what they do and how they can help you as an artist. Thanks, guys.
Hi everyone, I'm Jenny. I'm from the Arts Law Centre. We're a community legal centre which is based down in Woolloomooloo, and we give free legal advice to musicians on any legal issue that's affecting your music practice. So it might be a contract that you've been asked to sign, or you might be having a dispute with a band member about ownership, all those sorts of things we can give you some advice on. I've left one of these on all your chairs, and we've got the contact details in there if you want to call us and get some advice. Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, it's worth remembering that all that stuff is free, and even though someone's telling you about it now, that doesn't mean it's not cool or shit. This is a gig guide thing, and so let me introduce the panel so you know who everyone is. This is Rob G. Rob G has over 20 years of booking experience. He's booked for Aphex Twin, Custard, Itchy and Scratchy. He booked Oxford Arts and FBI Social at different times. There's many more things that he's done, but I've condensed it down into things that you might recognise. He's currently the co-director of Select Music, who booked Ballpark Music, Rufus, TK Maidser, my old band Blue Juice, a bunch of other people, and then internationally also Crystal Castles, Public Enemy, the list goes on. Please welcome Rob G from Select. Rebecca Young, a fantastic booking and would you call an artist manager as well, I suppose? Okay, just an agent. She works for Artist Voice and is currently booking some of the most exciting acts in Australian music. She represents Chet Faker, Dee Dee Dumbo, Hermitude, Bears Den, The Rubens, Husky, Meg Mac, and more. Please welcome Rebecca Young from Artist Voice. Next to her is Chris Shepherd, whose company Music and Booze Co. pretty much have locked down the entire inner west in terms of live music booking and DJ spots. There really isn't a venue that they don't represent in the inner west. So if you want a gig there, you'll have to talk to him. But yeah, if you do want to know where he's booking, it's Brighten Up Bar, Spectrum, Waywoods, The Vic on the Park, Marley Bar and Deus Cafe. Please welcome Chris Shepherd. Keita Tarlinton actually represents this place. And she also represents Tokyo Sing Song, which is just next to the Marley, kind of inside the Marley. And they do a lot of experimental... they have a night called Nothing Shocking that's sort of like a left-of-centre night. It puts on small shows by established and new artists who want to do something a little bit left-of-centre that doesn't necessarily have to rely as hard on a ticket price or packing out the venue. Obviously, also they'd like to pull a crowd though. So if you want to go see like Alex Cameron from CK do his solo stuff, then you might be able to go to one of her venues. Keita Tarlinton, ladies and gentlemen. That's Dom O'Connor. He worked for Music New South Wales for a little while. He's 19, and he's my friend. And Dom has done a lot of stuff for someone who's that young. He's worked variously, or currently works at Lunatic and Laneway. So he's kind of helping book Laneway Festival and seek out artists for Lunatic Entertainment, which is pretty heavy in and of itself. But outside of that, has booked Gallery Bar at Oxford Arts Factory and currently is booking Mum on Friday nights. So if you want to get a DJ gig happening, or if you want to do a small club show, talk to that guy. Please welcome Dom O'Connor. His bones are like glass. And last but not least, Maggie Collins. Maggie has done a lot of stuff. She worked in Brisbane for the Fans Group and launched a management company there called Fans Creative Management, who represent DZ, Death Rays, John Steel Singers and The Creases. She co-owns the Brisbane venue The Bright Side, but she's also currently the bookings and production manager at GoodGod Small Club here in Sydney. Maggie Collins. I'm Jake, but that's the least important part of this whole thing. We're just going to have a little panel chat first, and then as we move forward, we can open it up to you guys to discuss things that you might specifically want to talk about with these guys. A little bit of history. The landscape of Sydney's small pub and club scene was established as far back as the 80s, or at least the late 70s, I suppose. Rob G, do you have any historical perspective on how Sydney's gig culture has changed and developed?
How it's changed?
Well, let's talk about the start and then just interpret that as you want.
Well, I think the start would be, I don't know, we can start back in the 60s, maybe. Sure. A little bit of history there, that there was gigs more concentrated in suburbia. King's Cross was a huge area, but it was more in club kind of things, and if bands wanted to play like AC/DC, they would book out a school hall or a town hall or etc. But
and they'd transport PA to those gigs.
Yeah, they would have to supply their own PA, and would be a nightmare, and etc. Right. Then we would go through to 70s. Well, late 70s would be the boom of the suburban venues, from Bondi Lifesaver to Sweethearts in Cabramatta to Banjos in Granville, where it wasn't there was discos, but people would just go to see a band. It didn't matter who was playing, if it was Cold Chisel or My Sex to, I don't know, Sherbet to whatever.
And that was just kind of happening. What was the numbers like 200?
Yeah, they used to, so there was big beer barns. So it would be like 2,000 cap or 1,000 cap, and people would just go there and go crazy, see the Radiators or
just
the Angels, and well, have a good night out. Sure. And Leagues clubs, I remember seeing gigs at Parramatta Leagues clubs, like Castle Hill. I remember seeing Crowded House play there. That was like a 700, 800 cap kind of room. Mm-hmm. But it was more suburban things. Then with the 80s, it would continue to be that way. Then and there was big bands. There was big Australian bands that would just tour all around the country with PAs and just hit all these venues.
Like Hunters and Collectors, kind of probably.
Yeah,
famously self-sufficient.
But there would be inner city venues in the mid 80s from Sydney Trade Union Club, which was just
kind of over there.
Down the road. But they were kind of, people would go and see these bands, but there was bottom line kind of crowds, because it was like a culture of people would just go see a band.
So promotion and venue management wasn't as concerned with selling the night out based on the name of the band.
Well, you didn't have the internet. You didn't have...
What are you talking about?
Well, I'm just saying that people would... No, there's more to do now, but back then it would be like a thing to do.
But then just email you the list of what was on.
No. Well, my explanation would be that there wasn't as much entertainment options for people to do back then, I guess. That's why the culture was thriving more on a music kind of based, seeing bands kind of...
And bring us
vibe.
to your entry into it, kind of.
My entry
around the
came
lines, I
in.
guess.
I started to work at a agency called Trading Post Agency, which is now New World Artists. It was the beginning of Nirvana. It was the beginning of Big Day Out. So 1992, 91. Selena's was huge. But there was still suburban venues around that were bottom line kind of venues, like Tracks and Epping on a Tuesday night. You would a band that would have like Triple J Airplay. They would play to like 800 people, and it would just be a bottom line kind of crowd. And General Burke.
Changed? I mean, is everyone here kind of dealing with those numbers on a Tuesday pretty regularly now? Or no, it doesn't.
It depends on the act, I guess.
Yeah, I think it feels like things have changed a little in terms of numbers, but I'm surprised to hear that there were that many more people to pull. Why the difference?
Well, probably people generally love seeing music in that environment. I think people are still going to see music now, but maybe there's more international acts that are coming out and more festivals and events and et cetera for people to kind of
So do you feel
go
like
to.
Over that period of time, the pressures as a booker or a venue manager have changed fairly significantly to knowing that you could book someone that people knew and that possibly up to 2,000 people would turn up, to now where it seems, especially in Sydney, really quite competitive and a lot more emphasis on the headline artist, really. I mean, like, I feel like it's a headliner's game now, you know? It's like if you can pull, and you're Chet Faker, for example, you may sell out 6 Enmores.
Yeah.
But
2 Hordens even.
yeah, which is crazy.
It's all right. Yeah, did okay.
Well, since we were into that discussion...
And that was on a Tuesday night.
Really?
5,000 people, yeah.
Wow.
But
There
it
you
is
go.
important to say that Chet Faker's first ever Sydney show was down the road
Yes.
at the Gallery
At the
Bar
Gallery
a couple
Bar.
of years ago.
Yep. And then the next one that he did was at GoodGod, and Flume supported him.
Wow.
Yeah. So...
Did anyone see the review in the brag? Was it like, oh yeah, I could have done it better anyway? Whatever.
I'm Blake
you
with a
write
beard.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. Was there a period there where like there were many club and pub shows that you could book for under 200 person rooms in Sydney, and then around the time of, I kind of remember Candies and the Hopeton.
Okay.
Oh, it's just anyone really.
Okay, we're talking about 1992, 93, 94 kind
Not
of
quite
vibe.
that early for me, but yes.
Okay.
Like when I worked at the Hopeton
Yes.
in the Annandale for years, and I remember that being a pretty consistent pub gig, right? And the Annandale was a very consistent pub gig too.
Oh, look, there was always those rooms, but as it kind of went from 92, 93, 94, I think that even through 2000s and et cetera, that the suburban phenomena kind of depleted, and then it would be more focused on the inner city. I think that's where it kind of was more of a, it was reliant on a Hopetown to Annandale Hotel to Globe Venue to Candies,
Yeah, there was
which
like a
was
Surrey
Tom
Hills
Tom
scene at
Club,
that
and
point.
yeah.
Would you say that it's starting to head back out in the opposite direction now? Because that's something that I've noticed. And I mean, keeping in mind, I've actually only been here in Sydney living it full time since December, but I've been coming back and forth. I had been coming back and forth between Brisbane and Sydney for the past 6 years. And it was like the live music scene was absolutely killer, you know, back like 6 years ago or so for me, like personally. You know, I managed to join Steel Singers and they were selling out 2 shows at the Hopeton, and like that's not a huge amount in the scheme of things, but
it had vibe at that
Yeah,
point. Like
heaps of
if you could do that, it was a good stepping stone, right? As a booker, you'd be like, oh, well, they're doing 2 Hopetons, so obviously people care, and the cool kids who are likely to push that band forward in the industry in general are probably at those shows, and there was like a semi-buzz around that scene for a while.
Well, I kind of think sometimes that, you know, like the Hopetown and et cetera, even going back to the Annandale in the early 90s, it was musicians used to live around those areas. So as prices started to go up everywhere, it moved from Annandale, and then it moved to Surrey Hills was affordable, and now it's more Newtown and Marrickville.
Which is
you know
why
what I
I
mean?
think it's worth talking about some of the Music Booze Co stuff, because you guys have so many of the inner west venues, and it really does seem like maybe in the last year, I don't know how everyone else feels here, but I'm going to see more shows in the inner west. I'm definitely more interested in what's going on in that area, and there's a lot of people moving there who are around the sort of 19 to early or mid-20s age range, which is kind of driving a lot of that drinking and that kind of going out traffic. How are you adapting to that change, if there is a change?
There's definitely a big change for sure. I think a lot of that as well has kind of been forced or helped along by the lockout laws and stuff. Yeah. That's definitely been a huge part of a lot of the venues around these sort of areas, including like Brighton Up and Spectrum, really. And
GoodGod.
And GoodGod, yeah. Basically anywhere in the city have really taken a massive hit. We're trying to just turn a profit by doing live music. It might surprise you, maybe it might not, but with a lot of the smaller venues, you actually don't turn a big profit. You might have 100 people there, it might be a full house or whatever. For Brighton, it's 120, but they're probably only there from, say, like 9 o'clock to 11.
That's not a great deal of not enough drinking to keep you.
Yeah, totally.
Over.
Yeah, but obviously Newtown's benefiting from that, and also it's just a booming area, or the inner west in general, Marrickville, wherever around there, has been going really well because of that. So, take the good with the bad, I guess, but yeah, hopefully it doesn't hang around too long, those lockout laws.
Well, I heard a rumour that it was because they wanted to sell a bunch of real estate in King's Cross to developers, but that's just if you believe that kind of hype.
I feel like it's it sounds like a cop-out to blame the lockout laws for, venues going down.
Totally
but
a thing.
It's totally true. I mean, I was working at Gallery Bar for a while, and I've only started at World Bar maybe like a month or two ago, but everyone there is working really hard, but it's just so difficult because people don't really want to seem to go to King's Cross and see bands anymore. And that's just, that's the vibe I get first up. And I'm not, throwing a pity party and really sad about that, but that's just the impression I get when I go there.
You seem fine.
Yeah, well, yeah. But I mean, I live in the inner west, and it's great going to shows at the Vic and stuff like that. Like, it's a cool place. They do a great job. I think it's cool that you don't just have to go to the city to see a gig.
Yeah, well, it's actually, I mean, coming from the Brisbane perspective, I know that might not be relevant to a lot of people, but we've got Fortitude Valley in there, which is an entertainment precinct. And in Brisbane City, it's just a CBD. It's a bunch of buildings and a food court, and just, no one's there at nighttime. No one's there on the weekend except for tourists. And for the amount of experience that I've had being here in Sydney for the past few years, I'm worried that Sydney City will start to become something like that because of these lockout laws. And that's something that I've experienced just from going to GoodGod in the city every day, and also at nighttime with the gigs and stuff. So it's really had a pretty bad effect. But the other thing is that, it's actually, I don't know about the violence aspect of it, and that's obviously a whole other spectrum. But for one example, the guy that was responsible for the death of one of the people that received a coward punch and unfortunately died, it was just recently revealed that he assaulted someone in prison. So obviously he
assaulted someone in prison?
Well, yes. By stomping on his head. So it's mind-boggling that you would think that alcohol is the number one problem with that, or people being out in the streets, when it's the cultural issue that is the bigger issue. And I guess I just got a lot of opinions on that. But there is talk of the 1:30 a.m. lockout being spread out, not just from the city, but to the rest of Sydney.
I actually had a meeting with Marrickville about that. There's a relatively recent Marrickville Council meeting for venue owners and operators, and I think they're not, Newtown Police Precinct are not going to be doing that. They don't want to establish any new licenses that extend past 12 if people are asking for them, but there's no intention to make Newtown a closed down by 12 vibe.
Because Newtown's done really well
it's
doing that,
now. I mean, Keita, I don't know, you're running a venue there. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we can rely on Tokyo Sing Song and people coming there because it's open till 6 in the morning.
Yeah. And what's the capacity there? It's not huge.
It's 150.
Right.
But just from my experience very recently here is people just aren't out and about in this side of town. I don't know whether it's because the kind of indie bands we're booking would attract a better audience in a place like Newtown or Marrickville where they can afford to live and they don't, people don't want to travel halfway across the city. But yeah, I know that the Marley Bar has had like issues with everybody coming from the city and going to that pub.
It's really getting rammed.
It gets a little bit scary there.
Well,
Not downstairs, but upstairs.
I think both are equally exciting and scary. I've noticed that Oxford Arts Factory seems to be still kicking ass, though, so that's something that's like a weird exception to the rule. Does anyone have any theories on why that might be
They
still
get
good?
such huge bands.
Yeah, well,
like
you know,
massive.
on a gallery bar level, kicking ass probably wouldn't be the adjective I would use.
Yeah.
But they work hard. Like, everyone at Oxford Art Factory, while I was there, just used to work their asses off, like continually putting in 12-hour days and sort of not resting on their laurels, I guess. Not just booking, you know, the same acts that they booked 3 years ago that would do it, but and being not afraid to be giving new bands a try. You know, I know when Chet Faker won the Hottest 100 in January, everyone at Oath was so stoked because, you know, he played his first show there, and it sort of shows that when you put a little bit of investment into someone like that, it's going to pay off in the end. And it's not going to pay off in a money thing, it's not going to pay off in anything like that, but it's going to pay off in knowing that you helped foster someone that's really kicking ass.
Which I think is kind of the core, in my opinion, of why being in the music culture in general and in Sydney is so rewarding for the people who work in it, often sacrificing everything that they have in order to do that. Because it's nice to know people and work with people who are inspiring and exciting artists and club owners and people who are genuinely passionate, which is why I wanted to start the discussion with how we can keep that sort of healthy, because it's important. You know, I think we're all here because we actually care about that or are interested in that. But you raise an interesting point, and it's worth discussing with everybody here. What do you look for? How do you... let's talk to Beck for 2 seconds. How do you spot a young artist like Chet Faker, because you do manage him, or at least look after him?
I think, like I've said it before, it all just comes down to the music. So it has become a lot different recently because of the way that we all interact with the internet, in that everything's online now, so it's pretty rare for like myself or Rob to get physical demos anymore. I remember when I started at Artist Voice 4 years ago, I got sent demos in the mail all the time, and now maybe you get like one every 6 months or something. Everyone just sends you an email with a link to their music.
What
so
would
it's
you
really
prefer?
easy.
What makes more impact?
I like being able to, get it in my inbox, listen to it straight away. And I think, I still love physical CDs and I love vinyl, but I think for a new artist, it makes sense to send music in an email with a link. But back to your question, I think with Chet Faker, I got sent his EP. I could see what was going on with his cover of No Diggity on YouTube. It was getting major hits, and he was kind of a relatively unknown artist. And I was quite a new agent at the time as well. I'd only been at Artist Voice for about a year. But everyone in the office just absolutely loved the EP, and we were all just kind of really excited about it. And we went down to the show at Gallery Bar, and I can't say that it was the most amazing show I've ever seen because he was having technical issues, but you could see that like his songs were incredible, his voice was incredible, he's a really humble artist, and he hasn't lost that along the way in the last 3 years. So, that's definitely what we were looking for. But his trajectory has been amazing, but it doesn't always happen that way. A lot of the time I'll find an artist who I think is absolutely outstanding and their music is incredible, but they might still be at a GoodGod level, and I've been working with them for the last 4 years. And
that's what I wanted to kind of
does
discuss
happen, and it's like...
I think it's important because there's going to be people here who are looking to book and maintain a career that is at currently 100 to 200 people and do it in a healthy way that's not going to look shit and maybe have the potential to move beyond that. Are you working with people who